Hello and welcome to the Captain's Table, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Paul Berserker01, Batman Shelley, your humble host and space bartender at the AstroPub, your favorite space bar at the end of the universe. Sit back, relax, enjoy the show. We got a good one for you. Today we've got a very ad hoc episode because that's some head. I've seen some head. That's
bad.
That's better head than I can't say that because we're only 30 seconds into the video and we get instantly demonetized. How dare you?
I'll wait.
How dare you give a beer that much head and then oh.
I can't help it. I'm a considerate lover.
Yeah, you need to go more on the horizontal, you know? More on the horizontal.
Yeah, you don't know if you can do that.
Oh, you can.
All right. Well, already started. So both Darj and Zark came in the last minute because we didn't have anybody who wanted to come in and talk. So I do want to thank Darj and Zark for coming in. But let's get to introduce them individually as well before we get started on the topic for today. Zark, go ahead. Who are you? What do you do in Star Citizen? Where can they find you?
I'm Zark with 2R1K. And
2R1K. Yeah. Okay, I can fix that.
And I'm just normal pilot, normal captain, playing the game. Well, usually. Summer was a bit stressful. And usually I'm on Paul's Discord, hanging out, having fun.
You're also a civil engineer? Is that it as well?
Landscape architecture.
Landscape architecture, yeah.
So all things city development, space stations, weirdly enough, at least the Star Citizen ones are kind of interesting to focus on.
I should sit you down with Morph at some point and see if I can get you both on and talk about landing zones, and how CIG should change that and such. So that'd be good. Get a bunch of people who deal with engineering and public works together to talk about about Star Citizen's planning. All right, and then we've got the Prince of Pluto, Emperor of Uranus himself, Mr. Darjanator. Who are you? What do you do in Star Citizen? Where can they find you?
Hello, I am Darjanator, as was mentioned, and I like to make Paul uncomfortable on his show.
I'm waiting for the time.
That's my drive in life, yes. But otherwise, in Star Citizen, I hang on in his Discord, but most primarily these days, I work at a company called JRDF, and I designed dioramas that are going to be coming out soon.
I'm gonna have to get them.
Yep.
So,
don't worry. We'll sort you out.
Thank you.
I can say this, but I will say it quietly because it's still like a sort of a hush hush thing. We're the company that's decking out the Manchester studio.
Oh, nice.
So hopefully CIG will get off their asses and show a little bit of our hard work.
Well, I have seen some of that hard work, and let's just say there are spoilers in that hard work.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, there are some spoilers in that hard work, which I'm sure everyone at CIG doesn't even know or care, but like everybody else who doesn't, who like follows the project, would be like, oh, that. So
it is a screen.
Yes,
can be changed.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, it is an actual OLED screen, like 65-inch.
Okay.
So can we spoil it?
They could, I'm sure. But
to make it funny, they'll just put black bars over the stuff that would spoil.
The stuff that spoils. What I was going to say. Oh, yes. And of course, for those of you who don't know, JRDF does a lot of stuff, including ships and like diorama stuff for Star Citizen ships.
Yeah. I don't have a assembly manual here for a Carrack.
Yeah. I
don't have the Carrack with me. It's elsewhere.
If my pile of shame wasn't that big.
Oh, I'm gonna make it grow because the Mercury Star Runner is out. I'm waiting for the diorama version of the Corsair because I know it's gonna happen at some point, and my life is going to just fall apart. I'm gonna lose all control of my life.
The whole summer I've been working on the pile of shame, and it is larger than it was before.
Yeah. Yes, that's always the case.
Fortunately, our offerings aren't as large as Warhammer 40k, but even those CIG developers are working very hard for that to make it happen. But
Yeah, Star Citizen Armada.
There we go. Assume point.
oh god, don't give me that idea.
We bring it to the tabletop. I have faith in the community.
The
Once there are enough ships,
problem is designing a tabletop game that works within the Star Citizen universe with all the assets.
And with the changes of Star Citizen as it plays right now, because it changes so much.
I mean, before we can focus on the tabletop, we need enough ships. So you guys have to make more models, so we can finally have a whole fleet to put on the table, and then the game is developed far enough so we can focus on the tabletop, and everything works out.
The thing is, we do plan on releasing every ship in 1 to 500. There are going to be some issues with like the super tiny ones, like the M50 and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And the
Fury is, I think, just on the cusp of it, but possibly maybe not, because it's chunky. It could be done, but the thing is also, for some reason, the mounting point at the bottom is the exact same one as in Star Wars TIE Fighter tabletop game.
I wonder why. I wonder why that would be the case, JR.
I mean, we could start with proxy. I mean, we could start with using X-Wing data cards and modify this.
But make sure to check it out. It's JRDF.sc, right?
.sc, yes.
Yeah. And you just released the MSR, and then there's also the
already sold almost 200 of them. And then 500 total run.
And then the Gladius.
Get them while they're hot.
Yeah, I've been putting it off. I need to do that. Then also the Gladius and the what's the other one? The Saber. Right? Yeah.
Gladius and the Saber, yes. And there's, I'm not gonna say which ones, but there are 8 more 1 to 500s coming before CitizenCon.
Sweet. I'm praying for the Buccaneer. I know it's not gonna happen. I know some of them because
you're in the loop. Yes,
I'm in the loop.
You help us with lore, so yes. I throw you a bone every once in a while.
I am technically an advisor with them. I have NDAs. I have signed multiple NDAs. I am at this point under so many NDAs by so many different people that I could probably just like at one point I literally walked into CIG to film a segment that I was featured on. It was back when they did the Citizens of the Verse kind of thing. And I walked in, and they were needing some help set up. And I walked in, and I said hello to people, and somebody stopped me and said, "Doesn't he need to sign an NDA?" And most of the people who were there, who were doing the filmings, it was like Tyler and a couple of people, both looked at him, then looked at me, and said, "I think he's under like 4 NDAs for us, so I think he's fine." And I was like, "I probably am."
Yeah. I'm on the 3.
Most of my NDAs have now expired, except for my JRDF ones. So CIG's got to make me sign new ones.
So they're no longer legally binding.
Yeah, well, they're only 2 years. NDAs are mostly 2 years. So, like, the last time I signed one was 2017. So that was, a while ago. Yeah. Anyways, getting on to the topic of today, which is going to be hangars and cargo. Because hangars and cargo got a big update in terms of the design brief that they talked about in ISC. Now, I'm going to preempt this and say a lot of the stuff that we're going to talk about is stuff that if you've been a player for a very long time or you've been a follower of the project for a long time, none of this is new. None of this is going to be like blow your mind in terms of major changes. But it is a lot of confirmations of stuff that they've never really fully committed to in the past. And a lot of there are some new ways that they're going to be working on kind of stepping towards stuff. So I'm going to start off with Darj. I'm going to ask the question is, just in general, we'll start with hangars. With their explanation of hangars, was there anything that really you were just like, I don't like that, or anything that you're just like, oh, that's really good, I like that approach to thing? What was your kind of initial reaction to their changing, their discussions of how hangars going to work going forward?
Well, it's not exactly news. They talked about it on Star Citizen Live years ago already. I think
John Crew, right?
20.
John Crew said it, right? Talked about it, right?
They
No,
talked on
Chad
more than one.
McKinney and Rob Reininger. It's exactly the discussion we had on Discord. Someone else also said it was John Crew, but then I found it in my spreadsheet, which is also something that people know already about.
Darjanator.com. If you don't, go to Darjanator.com. It's there. It's supposed there.
Chad McKinney and Rob Reininger was talking about how instance hangars are going to work back then already, and the concept hasn't changed. So it's I can see why they're doing it. They line out all the reasons for it. There's just potentially going to be too much traffic for the real estate of the landing zones. So as soon as a hangar is in use, no longer. So as soon as the hangar door is no longer in use, they're just going to move you to a different place, which is going to be interesting if you have party markers on, because that's going to be it's just going to be flying all over the place. I'm guessing, and it's just another issue that they're going to have to tackle. But it's no game has ever come across this specific issue before, has it?
Not really.
It's like Star Citizen. Star Citizen is very good at encountering problems that nobody's ever encountered before.
I mean, Elite Dangerous has something similar, but what they just do is prevent you from landing. But Elite Dangerous, but the maximum number of players you can have in an Elite Dangerous instance is 30. So
right, and it's 100 for Star Citizen already, and that it's just going to go up. Yeah. So yeah, and Elite Dangerous just has. I mean, I was going to say they have stations big enough to handle all those ships, but apparently they don't, because if they don't let you land.
I think it's most of it. I think it's like 20 or something like that hangars. It's been a while since I've played, so they may have also updated both the number of players they can have per instance and also the number of hangars that exist. But my experience was there was a chance where you could, because I think the NPCs also use the hangars, so it's like a kind of a back and forth. And I'd imagine in Star Citizen that's going to be even worse, because there's probably going to be NPCs using the hangars as well. So
yeah, exactly. Like for legitimate player related reasons, or just background traffic. Yeah, and if they maintain the concept of 9 NPCs for 1 player up, there's going to be a lot of traffic for the major landing zones. Yeah.
Okay, but 9 NPCs per player is not meant that they are physicalized NPCs.
No,
that's more like the virtual ones.
But you could still see.
Yeah, but at landing zones,
yeah,
I mean,
be more.
The bigger thing with the instance hangars is, for me, how many bugs will they provide? Because as far as I understand those hangars, the doors close, and essentially the whole thing becomes an elevator.
Yeah.
And
that is invisible to you.
No. I don't want to use an elevator with my ship.
You're just that dog from with PTSD meme about like my ship
PTSD
moving
going on.
Yeah. No, I don't want to.
Yeah.
No, but I have recently used a trolley with an elevator, and I didn't die.
That's impressive. You didn't destroy the entire server?
Did you use it twice? Did you use it twice?
Yes, I actually put stuff in it, went to my ship, dragged it up the ramp, took stuff out of it, and then returned it where I found it, because, I'm a good boy and I take, the shopping trolley back to where I found it instead of leaving it in the parking lot. Okay,
now either the world is ending,
or CSG's finally improving.
Yeah.
So are you? Let me ask you the stars, and then I'll ask like this as well. Are you concerned that CIG that this is kind of like because I have seen people say this is kind of like this is CIG faking it, which they said they didn't want to do. They didn't want to fake it. But now they're just finally going, all right, we're gonna fake it to make it look good and make it work, but we're not gonna make enough hangars for everyone that we want to. Or do you see this as a CIG admitting defeat, that they can't get the thing that they want to do done, or do you see this more as a practical solution to the problem?
Look, if you've been to a busy port in real life, you will see the queues of trucks leading up to it. They're there for days. That is not a fun game. That's just the reality of it. There is so much traffic everywhere that the infrastructure cannot handle it. So if that were to happen in Star Citizen, there would be riots in the streets, really. So they need to do something, and the only way to do it properly would be to make stations that are hundreds of kilometers large, or spaceports that are hundreds of square kilometers large with thousands of hangars. That is,
To be honest,
yeah,
the spaceport in Lowell might actually be at least, I guess, 60 square kilometers.
Wouldn't
Should
be
be there.
surprised.
Yeah.
well, the spaceport itself in Lorville. I
Yeah.
mean, inside the
Yeah.
lit up place.
I guess
Wouldn't say that. I
60
wouldn't
to
say that.
100 square kilometers could be easily done in there.
Well, the question is also, do you want to be in a elevator for that long going out of that hangar?
Yeah.
From that.
It's like it could be done, and Star Citizen and CIG could do it. They created an entire planet made out of a city. So, but that is, it would be unrealistic. To have a single location be that large just because you want to allow for every single player visiting their own hangar in several sizes, because it could be several different size ships that would be there at the same time, like hundreds of several different size ships. It's just I think they did the correct choice by trying to fake it and still keep it aesthetically pleasing.
Okay, we'll get back to the persistence hangars next, because I think that's another question we're going to want to talk about. But Zark, what are your just overall interpretations from ISC?
Yeah.
Do you like to dislike about the hangars?
I'll actually say the instant hangars are more of a band-aid and emergency system. They come in now because, for one, it makes sense when you work on hangars, when you work on the persistence hangars, just do the instant ones. Also, especially with the cargo elevators and all the stuff. But at the end of the day, in my opinion, it's just a band-aid for now, because right now we have one system which is quite full. If we break down the average player count, 100, in my opinion, right now we have very full systems, or sometimes at least on specific locations, because many people seem to gather around specific planets. But in my books, I've never waited for any hangar to open to get cleaned out. There's always an empty one. So
I have waited several times, and it was before they upgraded the server capacity to 100.
I have never waited for a hangar. Never.
I will disagree. I've experienced waiting for hangar, especially with major events. So like locations like for Invictus, or for IAE, or for like Xenothreat, when everyone was going to that one station, you just would be stuck there.
You need to get the priority codes.
Priority boarding, yeah.
Yeah, okay, so the thing is, for me, the instant hangars are band-aid and an emergency system. So later on, I mean, in theory, CIG could use Quanta to determine if a spaceport needs extension. They could extend the spaceport without issue, because every spaceport we have right now could probably grow to twice its size and still fit. And the main problem is, in the end, how many people will actually use the hangar for an extended period of time. Let's jump forward a bit in time. We have base stations. This is where all the big cargo hauling is handled, all the large, long-lasting traffic. That's where the trucks are standing for weeks. Yeah? Nice thing is, space stations, you can scale them up to 100. You can have tractor beams, as many as you need, done. Then you bring the cargo down in some sort of tempo that's similar to how fast you can unload the larger ships. So that's more of a persistent stream, I would argue. Then you have people, I guess many people with larger ship, they have their own private hangar. So they don't need an instant hangar. They have their own one somewhere because they don't just want to load up their ship, they want to have their treasure hole. That's their hoard. That's where they have all the loot.
Yeah, that's persistent hangars, though. I do think that they're going. Yeah. They made a big distinction of those two different types of hangars. So.
Exactly. So those people usually only need an instance hangar, or need a different hangar when they visit a different system.
Mm-hmm.
But usually you have your persistence hangar in a system which you are mostly living in. Remember, hopping from system to system to system is not something that you do on a whim in Star Citizen. That's something that requires planning. So if you have your persistence hangar in Pyro, you will stick in Pyro and you will use, I argue, probably 80 to 90% of the time, your persistent hangar. Exceptions are when you visit a ruin station. Do you need an instance hangar if you visit ruin station? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe they shorten the code so that if you land, you first get your hangar. If the same hangar is required by another player, and you don't know, let's say you take more than 3 minutes time because you're rummaging, you're loading, unloading or something, then you get instanced. I could see something like this to facilitate that you don't have too many instance hangars to reduce server load down the line. And then you have the third kind of players that run around. They hop in their ship, they go into nowhere, go on a planet, and they return back once a month to get some new refreshments. So, in my opinion, it's really more of, in case we have too many players coming in, we need this tech. And right now, it makes sense to work on it. It's not that they want to fake it, because most players probably would not have to use the instance hangar.
Okay. Yeah, because like that was the one thing that I'm a little unsure on, because I can see a couple things. Number one, I know that we're going to get NPCs at some point landing and taking off. CIG wants to do that. They want to have NPCs flying around because it adds more immersion to the game. I mean, it's flying, landing, taking off.
You have to steal some special cargo, so you wait for the NPC to land in a spaceport, go on his ship, steal the cargo, bring the cargo through the hangar of the NPC to your hangar.
Yeah.
Take
there's going to be stuff like that they're going to want to they want to do themselves, like missions like that, and like you just said. But so they're going to need to have some way of doing it. But at the same time, I'm also dreading when IAE is in its actual location in IAE, because like IAE is not supposed to be taking place in Stanton. It actually takes place in one system every year. The one that we see in Stanton right now is called the Satellite Convention, where like they kind of do these little subsections, kind of like PAX East versus PAX West, or yeah. And this is, and when they finally have the full server meshing, everything working, it's going to be a cluster. I'm not gonna. Well, I'll just say it'll be a giant clusterfuck when people are trying to go to IAE, because you have new players who will probably be free flight players who will be coming in and trying out. You have players who are already there. And it's just going to be a giant headache, massive headache. So they're going to have something for those sorts of situations. So
sure, yeah. So,
but to be honest, considering that the Oktoberfest is right now starting in Munich next to me, so I actually would welcome it if you go to the IAE and everyone wants to go with their ship, there will not be enough hangars. There's not enough space to park. So you have to be smart. You have to find bus. You have to find trains,
Public
whatever.
transportation.
NPC public transport. Yeah, that would be interesting. But
And that's the way to get there.
if these instance hangars are designed primarily as an overflow mitigation, and so why not use it all the time? As soon as the doors of a hangar close, why not just do it anyway? Because
it would
why have two
reduce server
systems in
load.
place?
Yeah,
exactly. It will reduce server load.
And in theory, you could, when server meshing comes in, you could just turn those instance hangars into their own servers. So they wouldn't. It would take the entities off of the and the player like feedback off of the larger server in the region.
Yeah, can you imagine what your own personal 144 FPS hangar server? God damn.
Watching, you could see the hairs growing on the NPCs who are helping you load and unload your cargo.
But if these instance hangars are tied into the server meshing, like the dynamic server meshing, as you suggested, that would be an amazing opportunity, because then as soon as you land, you take the load off the DGS. Yeah. And then your oh god, your shuttle off to like this Celeron 2 with 2 gigs of RAM server on a laptop in a corner somewhere, because that's all you need.
Run by hamsters.
Yeah.
All right, so let's add on to this. Let's continue on and talk about persistent hangars, because they never really talked about how they're going to do persistent hangars. They just talked about that that they will be persistent hangars, and it's different from the instance hangars when loading your cargo. So, Zark, I'm going to start with you on this. How do you think they're going to approach persistent hangars? Are we going to actually be able to like fly to an area and see our hangar, or like request landing and like our persistent hangar opens up and we fly out? It's like it's a separate location from the spaceports, or do you think it's going to be like the instance hangars, like it's going to be its own instance, and then you just get kind of somehow transported back to a launch hangar or something like that?
So, small tangent, but was it CitizenCon last year or the year before? They had a panel on server meshing, or wasn't inside Star Citizen, where they talked about how is it when you have your outpost and how this would be between the 3 big shots, so EU, US, and Oceania.
Yeah.
How would this work? And I said, okay, you are, for example, in the EU shot, you have your outpost there, and the outpost is still on the other 2 shots, but they can't interact with it. They can't destroy it, they can't attack it. This leads me to believe that in the final version, so maybe not tier 0, but over time, there will only be a certain amount of apartments, because they kinda are the FPS version of the persistent hangar, and hangars that you can either rent or buy. And once this capacity is full, either the construction workers on the planet say, okay, let's build another hangar complex or something, or you just can't get a persistent hangar on this planet. Prime real estate. So I'm not sure if any of you has played Final Fantasy XIV. There you have housing areas, and in every housing area there is a certain amount of areas you can where you can put a house on. And when the area's bought and there's a house, no one else can get it. That's yours. They have multiple layers now for this. But as I said, I can see it. Lowell, you have some hangars, some apartments in Lowell. They will be very pricey because it's right in Lowell. You will have some persistent hangars.
That, but Lorville started off as low. What is it?
Oh,
low income.
It's
yeah,
logistical
but the miners,
organization, residential.
It's slums.
It's slums.
Yeah, but the plebs aren't allowed to buy hangars. They aren't allowed. That's for the others. Hangars are only for the aristocracy.
So you're saying, so you're thinking like there's going to be a set amount of hangars per landing zone, and if you don't have a persistent hangar there, you're just fucked.
Not just per landing zone. It can be in Lorville, and I guess the first rollout would be you have persistent hangars in Lorville, and then you have some in the next city of around Lorville. You can get black market persistent hangars. So, for example, you are very good with the Ninetales. They say, hey, you know what? We have an old cave over there. That you can buy this and you can have that as your base of operation. I could even see CRG going that you can find derelict hangars you can repair and own as a persistent hangar then. And they can be everywhere. I mean, as I said, those persistent hangars, they can be everywhere on the planet. But the official ones, every persistent hangar kind will be limited, and the official ones will be here in Lorville. There's your hangar. Pay up.
There's enough asteroids in the Aeron Halo for every person on Earth to have a hangar.
Yeah, that's true. And there's definitely locations. But Darsh, how do you think they're going to approach this persistence problem?
That's gonna the first come first serve is gonna be a big rat race for the habs, not for the habs, for the persistent hangars. So I'm guessing if you want a persistent hangar in a big landing zone, it'll behave like instance hangars, except you will get the very same one every time, instead of just if you're visiting, you're just getting a random hangar every time. Unless but then in locations outside of those, like Zark said, it's possible, like for your own outpost, that you have your own personal hangar, and then you have your own personal hangar in an asteroid or in a cave. It'll be interesting to see where they create a delineation, because they can't have both. They can't have both. They can't have. I mean, they could have instance hangars everywhere, but what's the point of having a super secret layer if several people have one in the same location?
The thing is I don't think persistent hangars will be instance, at least later on. First iteration, I can see that the persistent hangars will only be, for example, in Lorville, New Babbage, Area 18, and Orison.
Unless
and they might be instanced.
Unless there are no persistent hangars in landing zones at all.
Yeah, I believe
outside of them.
I believe there will be one, and the thing is, every game needs money sinks. And what better money sink than to say, okay, you can have your persistent hangar in New Babbage. It's damn expensive. You have to pay huge amount of taxes simply because you're right in the city. You are prime real estate. If you say, okay, I don't need to be in the city. I have no problem with flying half an hour to the city, then going in the spaceport, then taking the tram. I can take some cheap hangar outside. No issue. And there will be a certain amount, at least I can see this, a certain amount of prestige and convenience that will say how much the hangars, because I can actually see this being it will be quantity driven, so the more players want a persistent hangar in New Babbage, the more expensive it will get to have one. And this will actually, and this will, and I'm pretty sure this will spread the player base around all over the system, because some players say, I don't need a persistent hangar in New Babbage, it's much too expensive. I'm fine with taking one on the moon in this outpost there. It's cheap. It's nothing fancy, sure, but that's my cave.
I don't think CIG is interested in limiting people's choices based on availability. I mean, ship limited sales aside, we're talking about in-game stuff. So if there are persistent hangars in major landing zones, I'm guessing they will be instanced. So when they fill up, there'll still be um, uh, availability.
Yeah.
Actually, you just brought me on an idea. So again, I think they will not be incensed and they will be limited. The most important thing is if you the closer to the city you want your persistent hangar, the higher your reputation has to be. So
Reputation
not every
gated, I could get behind. Yeah,
and
reputation gates should be everything in this
and
game.
Oh, yeah.
the next thing is actually because what is the one thing Chris always says about Star Citizen? The one phrase we all know: living, breathing universe.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's a
So
lot of things Star Citizen, but yeah, that is one of.
so I actually can see, based on Quanta, and considering the tech that's involved, it's not hard to do, that persistence hangars might be expanded over time. So if all people want to live in New Babbage, obviously the hangars will be more expensive. And yes, you will have a rat race and you need more and more reputation, but they might actually expand the spaceport, and slowly but surely there will be more hangars available. And again, if you expand the spaceport, you need materials, so we can generate missions. We have cargo that needs to be transported. Cargo needs to be transported in huge masses. Pirates get attracted. Now we need escort missions. So
Yeah,
that's actually how I see this.
uh,
They won't go for the instance route because it's much more useful
Has
for
more
the
of an
game
effect.
to limit it. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's much more useful to limit it.
but you
Go ahead,
say that it'd be easy to expand, but then you have to have like a lot of artists involved for months to
No,
create all the
you
assets.
don't. You don't. You don't. You
If you want to
you
visually expand the spaceport like you're suggesting, you
yeah.
need to create the assets and in a
So
proper way that everything fits
so
properly.
you for the building stage, you can probably get away with what's the term, with a
Gray box?
no, not gray box. The
Placeholders?
assisted. Our plans are something assisted generated.
Oh,
AI
procedurally.
generated? Procedure generated?
So for the building phase, I can see procedural generation that says, okay, that's how the building goes forward, and I can see that you have an artist that just takes the visual cues and takes the existing assets of the spaceport and extends this. I mean, you don't have to work.
That's just not how it works. With bespoke landing zones, that's not how it
No,
works. You would need to have
you don't. So
for
the thing is,
outposts, for tiny outposts, sure, but for stuff like New Babbage that has had
uh,
everything
the thing
touched
is,
by an artist,
I
you
I'm
would
only
need.
I'm only talking about you take the spaceport and extend it through the mountain range. So this means that you don't have to put any interior work necessarily. You just have to put some whatever it looks, maybe some steel boxes that go a bit outside of the mountain in the same style that the rest of the spaceport.
Yeah, exactly.
Has.
You need artists to do all those. And
And
sure, it can be
and this
done, but
you
it
can
can't be done
probably
procedurally.
generate procedurally to a high degree. You have to make sure that nothing clips, but I and
The question
we
though,
No,
Zark,
that's
the
no,
question though
no.
is that worth it though? Would that be worth it for CIG to keep this limited factor? Well, by hiring artists and having them, even if it's mostly procedurally generated, they're still gonna have to go in and touch it up and do it patch to patch. And like, what
I
happens
can't
if that
answer
place
this.
gets us?
I cannot. That's a huge.
In your opinion, though, do you think it's worth the effort?
So I think it would fit more within the line of Star Citizen's vision
Okay.
to really say, okay, we only have a limited amount of spaceports, of persistent hangars, and they can be expanded. How easy it is if they work with tools. I mean, we have we see within the landing zones now procedural generated buildings that are supposed to come with procedural
We haven't seen
generated.
any with the major landing zones. Even with Lorville 2.0, everything is author driven for the major landing zones.
For the major landing zones, they've shown us a tech demo about generating the buildings, and sure, it's not yet in game, and we have yet to see anything actually usable. But they've shown us the tech for doing this, and considering that that's what I read and interpret in the monthly reports, they want to extend the playability within the landing zones. I see them going much heavier on the procedural generation of landing zones, not just the poor artist driven. That's why they work so hard to make it right, to bring it to work.
No, but it's no. So the procedural generation has always been artist driven and always will be artist driven, because that's not what they want to go in. If you want to have a fully procedurally generated location, then you have No Man's Sky, and everything looks the same. All the space stations look the same, and
you have Starfield, where they copy paste the same dungeons for every planet.
Yep.
You know.
The vision with Star Citizen is and always will be that it is they have created so much that is artist driven that I don't think they will want to just add like a tumor onto it just because they need more hangar space.
So
unfortunately there is Star Citizen is too aesthetic driven for Chris to allow for that.
So, for one, I'm not suggesting that there's just one guy pressing a button, and then some spaceport gets expanded. That's not how it works. I'm on this point with you. But when you take a look at how they work with the procedural generation, caves are procedurally generated. Planets or space stations. They have a very distinct rule set, and artists take a look what they do, how things are working out. And the same is what they want to use for the buildings within the city. The buildings will be procedurally generated, but they get a very distinct rule set, and they're figuring out how to make this rule set so that the generation fits within the city. Using this tool, which they already develop and want to use for gameplay purposes, it would be possible to extend the city beyond the borders. It might be more work, because you have to think about, okay, how will the city grow and so on.
I don't think so.
How do I want to change the skyline? This is work that an artist might have.
What you're saying is having some buildings, some of these procedurally generated buildings that they're planning on doing that have the procedural interiors and stuff like that, that they'll just increase those numbers with like, if they want to have more personal hangars, they just, because I think I was waiting for you to kind of wrap up.
Yes.
Because that is something I could see CIG doing, which is using these procedurally generated buildings as the persistent hangars for players, and having the hangars that you land at spaceports being the instance hangars. Because that means you could still have the players be able to take off and land in the same hangar location on a building that happens to have their hab and their hangar.
In New Babbage and Area 18, we already see buildings with landing pads on hangars.
Well, so, and even in the concepts, they've talked about how they want to add like hangars or some sort of landing pad ability on some of these locations.
And then you can add on to the hangar already the apartment, so you can buy apartment and hangar in one, so you have your complete home. And those things might become even more expensive because now you have a hangar with the living space attached to it.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of possibilities.
There's a lot of people. This discussion has spurred a lot of people in chat to be discussing, be like, well, CIG already does copy paste a bunch of stuff. And the one thing I will kind of set the record straight for, which I think a lot of people don't realize, is that CIG doesn't want to copy paste stuff. They're they're trying to diversify as much as possible. That's why the new UGFs exist, and they're going to be.
And why the new sand caves are going to be the new de facto caves, and they're going to replace all the existing caves in Stanton. And the sand caves are a lot more diverse, so they're
you won't have the same kind of
you won't see the same caverns repeating, in 10 different caves that you visit.
And I wouldn't be surprised if they did unique themes for each space station going in special locations going forward. It's just that's not what their personalities right now.
Duplication is that they have to duplicate, or they had to duplicate certain things. Let's say especially outposts, because they only had so many assets, which will change over time the more assets come. But
it also makes sense. For instance, if you have a company that has a factory that just creates these outpost modules, like it just shits them out constantly, and you just go, I want this one and that one and that one, and then you just combine them in a different layout.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Modular homes exist, and they're all identical.
I live in one.
The more interesting part is, in theory, you could say every cave, even the new ones, every cave is the same cave. The difference is, due to using procedural assistance, that's what makes the whole process with CIG so interesting. Due to using procedural assistance, they drop the cave, and the cave builds itself according to seed number, and it's different depending than another one. And even if why ever, simply because we have so many caves, let's say, 2 caves have the same seed number. Being on different planets, they automatically get assigned certain rules. For example,
gravity.
Is it sand? Is it ice? What kind of animals you might find? So even with the same seed number, there will still be a huge difference. So that's what actually is on the back end. That's why procedural assistance is so important, and that's why I think that expanding landing zones with this procedural assistance to make space for more persistence hangars instead of simply instancing this is well within the possibilities of CIG doing this.
But you're then coming back to the same issue that like if you want to have 1,000 hangars outside of New Babbage, you're going to have the city of New Babbage, and then you're going to have a field of hangars that's 10 times as large.
But that's the question.
From an aesthetic point of view, that doesn't look good.
That's the question. Does CIG want 1,000 hangars around New Babbage? Or do they say, hey guys...
I would say no, just because they're so aesthetically driven, and it's going to look ugly.
And the thing is, it's well within their means to say, guys, persistent hangars, they are a limited commodity. So if you want to live in New Babbage, you have to go to a player who has a persistent hangar there and say, hey guy, I want to live here. How much for your hangar? So you have player interaction, another thing CIG is big on. So limiting the amount of persistence hangar that are available, really soft limit so you can expand with Quanta, but also a hard limit so you don't ruin everything, is, in my opinion, within the interest of CIG.
I will say that there's definitely a middle way between those two that I think CIG will probably take, because I agree with Darj. CIG is very aesthetically driven. They want to make things look good. They want to make things feel good. They want to make things feel unique. And if everyone's walking to apartment 1A to access their apartment, people are going to get pissed, because it's just like there's one apartment building, but everyone uses it. And like the likelihood of you running into somebody else who's using the same apartment entrance as the same instance entrance for your apartment is high. And you would probably get upset about that because it's not unique. It kind of pulls you out of the experience.
I mean,
but at the same time, I can also see them doing a bunch of unique. So as a result, they'll do a bunch of unique stuff. But I still don't think they're not going to do instances. It's just they're going to have. Well, we have an average per server. We can support 300 people per server inside the shard. So we're going to make 400 apartments, and that's it. And even if we increase the shard limit, they'll never be able to like. And so it'll still be instance.
I feel like if they do these updates, they will be closely tied to how many players can be in a single world instance.
Yeah.
When they up that, they'll do some updates to potentially, but not but not 1-to-1.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, we have so much space in Star Citizen.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
And right now our planets are insanely empty. So
we have so much room on the planet Earth. Why are so many people living in huge cities? Because that's where the sex
Convenience. That's going to get clipped. I know your eye's going to clip that one.
Yeah, but the thing is, I can really see CIG go build a second, third, fourth city on Microtech.
That is also something I agree with. Why do we have only one city on each planet?
Yeah. Yes, where they put on more persistent hangars, and so you spread the player base around the city, and I mean, Ashes of Creation works with this whole nodes development thing, and I'll wait for Tony to come out and say, hey, Quanta is now capable of developing stuff, of developing cities, mining outposts, whatever. And
yeah,
I mean, you have to think, we have the Pioneer coming out someday, which works around,
hopefully,
which works around building outposts, building
stuff,
villages. We probably get smaller ships or ground vehicles going around building stuff that can build stuff. So we kind of need a building carrier. So to have a building carrier, you need NPCs requesting this for baseline quests.
I think you're going a little too off into the weeds with that one, my man. I think you're going a little too. Okay. I get what you're saying though. I get what you're saying. Well, we talked a lot. We still have. Let me see how long we've been talking about this. For an hour, and we haven't even talked about the cargo yet.
It's one of those episodes.
Yeah. Well, let's get into the cargo. Let's get into this because the other big thing that I wanted to talk about was the cargo changes. There's two major changes, which were kind of, as I said, if you've been following Star Citizen, it's not news. It's not news. It's stuff you've experienced before. But there's some slight stuff. So the big one is the change in personal inventory. So soon, instead of having a personal inventory just on your ship, you're going to have to buy a box to store your personal inventory.
Unless it has those storage boxes that we've seen pop up on some ships, yes. Already like built into walls, lockers, and stuff like that.
Well, that would be the question is, do you think, because there's a lot of like storage locations on ships, do you think CIG is going to literally be the situation where you have to go out and buy a box and put it in your ship, or do you think that they're going to turn those storage locations, those like cabinets and other like in drawers on, and we even see them labeled as storage, like on the like I think the Cutlass has one of those, which it's just
it's next.
I would love it.
Yeah,
it's next to the hangar in the hab area. It's just like this little yellow box that says storage.
But if you open it, you can see that it is designed for a spacesuit.
Yeah.
Okay, so if actually all those lockers and cabinets and whatnot will work, the first thing I do is go in my Carrack and fill every single of those huge slots with a suit of armor.
Just armor everywhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
But do you think CIG is still going to do those sorts of things? Because they do seem to spend a lot of time in those storage compartments on ships. Do you think that this is just a temporary measure that they're going to be doing, or is this something that's more of they're just trying to explain the differences between commodity cargo boxes, which you're not going to get access to, and then like the inventory on cargo boxes? Yeah. Start with you.
Who's first? Because I'd like a refresh.
Okay.
Okay. Let's go with Zark. Zark and Darsh can go get his refresh.
Okay, so I can see this. So a final vision I see or I understand is that when you have your ship, you have storage areas where you can store everything. You have storage area for specific things. For example, armories for weapons. You have the suit storage parts, and so on. So now for 320 specifically, I see the best case scenario, which would be those things just work.
Okay.
We now can go up to the pod, put our suit in, we see our suit, the armory in our ships works, things can be stored there, perfect. The locker in our apartments work, we can equip and change our clothes there, perfect. The not so great version of this whole thing is it does not work. Too many ships to fix it, and so on and so forth. So now we have to use a version of the physicalized personal inventory. So we have a commodity box that we have to carry with us. And in this box, and this box is our magic bag of holding. Stuff things in, carry it with you, bring things out. Would be very clunky, very immersion breaking, to be honest. So I can see them doing this if the proper ways do not work. As I said, can we make every pod on every ship workable or not? But it would only be a stopgap. Now, more interesting is the thing that baseline you can now trade very easily. You can just have your box of cargo, put things in. You can put things in on the grid as well, but now you could actually store things inside a cargo box, which might make it easier to carry certain things, and actually solve the question: how do we interact with all those larger boxes, so they don't just have a magic inventory appear, but you can and have to go inside them. The big question for me is, as the whole thing about saving your gear at a location is kinda persistence hangar thing. At least that's what it sounds to me like in their presentation. Like in a persistence hangar, you store your stuff.
Mm-hmm.
If I don't have a persistent hangar, where do I get my 10 suits of armor? Where do I put them? Where can I save them? Where can I put them for storage? If I don't have a persistence hangar. That's the big question I have now for 320. Later on there might be services, whatever, workarounds.
Well, as far as I understand, these inventory boxes aren't in 320. They're still a planned feature down the road, aren't they? Or was I wrong about that? Because I don't think they said that I don't think they said they were removing your inventory from ships for 320.
Not for 320, I believe. No.
No, I think that was they were saying that you would have it down the road. So
because then it would be in the PTU, and the PTU still behave. The inventory in the PTU still behaves like it does in 319.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know. I'm seeing what you're saying though. It adds. There's a bunch of questions that gets brought up because, like, persistent hangars exist, which people should be able to have access to individually. Sort of thumb stuff. Darj, your thought. Do you think we're going to see them actually utilize these storage containers on ships, or do you think they're going to be going away and you're now going to have the buy inventory for your?
I think the existing storage containers and the lockers are going to remain, but they're going to, depending on their size and their location, they're going to be limited for what you can use them for. Like, for instance, in the captain's quarters of the 400i, under the bed, you have one of those containers. Can you put a railgun in there? I'm gonna go with no, unless you're very good at origami. So depending on those, so just like with torso inventory and backpacks, you will have items that are too big for that, not only by volume but also by dimension. Like you can't put a gun into a backpack, you have to put it on the backpack. So those items, those storage containers are going to be useful for small knickknacks and stuff that you just want to have on your ship just because it fills up the ship with stuff. But if you want to use like the storage container boxes that snap onto the cargo grid are probably going to be useful for temporary storage if you want to move items from one place to another, and you don't want to carry them one by one. You just grab one of those big boxes with a tractor beam and then just carry it out. So, and for extended storage when you fill everything up, like an Avenger doesn't have one of those containers unless they update the interior, because it has some paneling and shit like that next to the bed that could be potentially used for it. But still, it doesn't look big enough. But you could put a bunch of boxes in the cargo grid, and you will have room for items that are not just loose and flying around that could potentially get damaged when your ship takes damage. So they will behave like cargo boxes. And so I'm guessing they will remove the whole global ship inventory. You just press I and you have access to it. With the boxes, with mandatory purchase of boxes. But those lockers, they'll still remain. So you can put helmet in, you can put an undersuit in, and hot dogs, whatever.
So you're basically saying like to keep the immersion, and so it's going to reduce the amount of cargo you can, or the amount of stuff you can keep in your inventories. But for immersion as well, like there'll still be places you can store stuff. It's just it'll have limits and other things, kind of like your own personal inventory does. Yeah. Zark, you were going to say something?
Yeah. 2 questions. The first one is, can we get like a very small storage box right underneath our pillow for the knife?
Why? This is Chris Roberts' PES stream. You can just put the knife under the pillow and then just pull it out afterwards.
Okay, true.
And that's a lot more cinematic when you're in the middle of an intense negotiation and like the ship lurches and your pillow.
I thought everybody in Stanton slept with a coda under their pillow.
They sleep with a railgun under the pillow. That's the
only the ones who are good at origami.
And the second one is, when will all the lifters we already see be usable? Because now all the lifters, all those cargo lifters.
Oh yeah, the cargo lifters. Yeah.
We already have a couple of them in the game, so now they need to make them usable because we need them.
Potentially, if in the last ISC episode, the capture team did a sneaky with the mule that was carrying a box.
Yeah.
Yeah, the mule. The issue is, so with 320 or 321, tractor beams are limited by weight, which means that
they're already limited by weight, but they will be changing what the limit is, because potentially we're getting the big tractor beam as well instead of just the
so moving the 32 SCU container out of your small Avenger requires.
Well, it doesn't fit. First off, it doesn't fit. That doesn't even fit in a max. I tested.
Yeah.
Yes. I see what you mean. Yes.
Yeah, and don't say it does not fit. With enough motivation, everything fits.
Someone will make it fit.
And enough lube.
I mean, they put a 16 STU container through the Cutlass. Fits like a charm.
Yeah. Cutlass is much bigger than an Avenger, though.
So the question is,
she a thick lady.
Where's the stuff to move all those containers? And next to the lifter, we need the trailers.
I'm sure they'll have it at some point. I'm thinking like we'll go into the last little kind of just a quick round before we take a break and take the questions. But I'm thinking that the CIG has put so much immersion work into putting those storage places everywhere that there's no way they're just going to be like, well, we're just gonna, they're just gonna be gone. Like, it's just more of you're going to have to manage, like, inventory management sucks, but in every game like Star Citizen, you have to do it. It is a required, like, gameplay loop. And you'll have your cabinet filled with bananas, and then the one quest item you need is stuck in that damn cabinet because you just threw junk into it. Like, there'll be parts of this, but I think that's
I'm glad that they're expanding it to such a degree that it's not just playing Tetris.
Yes.
In a grid.
And the big thing is, I say that probably 80% of the storage capacities on our ships we have no access to right now.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about the lockers or the armory, which sometimes just lets weapons disappear, but in the kitchens.
Yeah,
all those cupboards, all those medical things, they are supposed to be used, and they will not work with the storage system. They will work just with the PES because you put in the med pen and it stays there.
Yep. For like the Redeemer has it working. The Pisces C&R has the medical cabinet next to the bed. That's working. The Lynx comes with a bunch of like champagne and champagne glasses in the glass cabinets. So they have shown that they want that sort of functionality. They just need to go back and do gold standard passes on the interiors of all these ships.
And especially considering the new interaction mode they are working on for Squadron.
Grabby hands?
Yeah.
Yep.
I think it's called something different now because that sets some bad connotations for calling it grabby hands. But yeah.
Grabby hands are nice.
Yeah. I do not say that in the U.S. That would get you very, very weird looks. But you're right. I think you're right with like there's so much storage stuff that CIG has bothered, because if you go through the HABs now, they have since the HABs have been added, they've gone through and every single drawer can be pulled out or opened, or like the cabinets doors can be opened. Everything is interactable. It's great.
It's not on the same level as, say, Half-Life Alyx is, where you can literally open everything. And all the physics proxies are also like one-to-one with the geometry.
The answer it's yet. I do not envy the props teams, the interactables teams, because I'm sure they stay awake at night dreaming about like a ship like the Idris and being like, hey, every single door that can open has to open and you can put stuff into it. That's a PTSD dream.
Why do you think it's taken so long to put a functioning Idris into the PU, considering it's been working in Squadron 42 forever, when they don't need to do that? You have access to your locker, and
that's
your
it.
bunk, and that's it.
Well, the thing is, all this PTSD, we will have this too. Just the thought of managing all those cabinets on my Carrack. Oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the knickknacks app is going to have to get an expansion, because like then you no longer will have to rely on. But yeah,
forget knickknacks. Excel.
I
will
an Excel spreadsheet of.
Yeah, I will use Excel. I will use Excel for my Carrack. There will be an Excel map. Each room gets its exact listing of items that are in there. Every item gets taken will be noted, and I know exactly what I have.
You're no longer playing a video game at that point.
Otherwise, how the hell are you supposed to make this work?
I do think that the other thing that is important to kind of keep in mind is that a lot of ships are built with these storage devices put in place already. Like, the reason why the Connie is supposed to be a really good ship is because if you look at the interior, you can tell that the Connie was originally designed to have tons of space in that little living area for storage, just like personal storage. And you look at the the Corsair for like in comparison, they give up a lot of that personal storage for personal living space. So there's just not a lot of personal storage capacity in a Corsair compared to the Connie. And you can start to see that that's an additional sort of trade-off mechanic that CIG wants to do, and it's something that they've wanted to do since the beginning of the game. So I don't think we're going to see it go away, but I do think it's going to be reduced significantly. And one thing I would ask for CIG to do, even if it's just really ghetto, is to give us a way of labeling these inventory spaces with like a title of some kind, because otherwise I'll do what I normally do. Like I've got a couple of drawers in my room that are just junk. I don't even know what's in there. I generally know what I put in there. I don't remember everything is in there. That's what's going to happen in games. And it always happens in games like this.
That's why I have done. Why I will use. That's why I use Excel then. If it's down that part,
organizing. Yeah.
No, you need knickknacks that goes by room, and you need search.
Yes.
Search and knickknacks, and it will solve everything. Really.
But I also don't think that the whole like inventory stuff is that bad. In fact, I think more people want it because the amount of loot goblins that need more storage for our random junk that we pick up that we're totally going to use. We're never going to use, but we're going to totally use. So, besides, you can sell that stuff too. So, like,
what if I don't need 400 health potions?
Then you're doing something wrong.
I take a hint from Starfield. Like Starfield has that problem with storage. Like I was talking with my wife. She's playing the game. She's like, all of my followers have their inventory full. My inventory's full. My ship's inventory's full. All of the boxes in my house are, the house that I started with are full. And I still don't know where to find, like polymers. I still don't have polymers for crafting.
Fucking polymers.
So to craft and stuff like that. So, like, yeah, and that's an example of like. That's a similar problem. And I think Star Citizen is probably more similar in that aspect in terms of just having a lot of stuff that's going to be for various different aspects of the game that you're going to need to be able to find a way of sorting and controlling and stuff like that. So
yeah,
I think we should all just switch Star Citizen to the Minecraft engine, and then we just have chests with signs on them, and everything's working.
If we could just label, if you could say an option for like. Click on it and saying label this storage something I can type it in every time I look over it, it'll say storage. What's that?
But Paul,
Subnautica has that.
Yeah.
But Paul, that's the reason why I say ships like the Merchantman are just so mighty, because the amount of space where you can put just stuff in. Great. You have your 32 SCU containers. Put your junk in. I'm fine. I'm done. Yeah. I don't bother with labeling because all of this gets sold on bulk. It's like, okay, I'm going market and saying, hey, you can pay by kilograms or by, I don't know, Chris Roberts units.
Because you're also going to have things like soon, like in the not too distant future. It's already sort of there, is the idea of getting your ship and never going to a landing zone. You're going to need to have like storage for food and for drinks and stuff like that. And
second step of PES when it's coming down.
That's whenever that is. That's like either 321 or shortly after that. They talked about it in the postmortem this week. Mm-hmm. So. All right, the last topic, and this is going to be a quick one before we go on break and use it, so we can use the restrooms and come back for answering the question and answers, which is the one that I think CIG opened a Pandora's box with, which is that image of the Aurora on the side of that whole sea, which was a big question a lot of people had: is could you transport smaller ships in the cargo grids of like, say, the whole sea or other ships like that, things like that, because it's been maybe not so clear and because they've been asked that in the past and they've been like conflicting ideas in the past. They said no, that's a different grid. It doesn't work that way. So like, but they did say in this monthly report that they want to do anything that could be attached to the grid, anything that's free that could fit should be able to fit. So
if it fits.
So I think we have to split this kind of in two things. First thing is, principal philosophy for CIG is, if it fits, it sits.
Mm-hmm.
Goes for everything. Now, the old cargo grid was probably due to limitations or ease of use restricted to certain objects that get fit on it.
Mm-hmm.
Those certain objects were our small boxes to carry. This does not work when we have a lot of different containers we want to put on there. Large container, bit smaller container, higher container, thicker container, whatever. So now you could go the easy way, which CIG never does, and just program those 10 container sizes and be done. Instead, I said, okay, but what if I have something I want to transport which might not fit in a container? Let's say a small ship.
Mm-hmm.
So now
they have to figure out something. How are they delivering your ships when you claim insurance?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, we do know how they deliver larger ships, and effectively they made the new cargo grid in a way that everything that goes on there can be attached. Everything. And I say the shot they showed us is pretty representative.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
Okay.
I already know the mayhem this will bring.
Oh yeah.
There was a Hull E concept a while back that showed smaller single-seater ships.
It was a 300
boxes.
Yeah. It was like a 300 or a
300
Hornet.
Auroras, Hornets. They were all
boxes.
there, but those that sized ships were in boxes, and then the boxes would attach to the cargo grid.
Yeah.
Yeah, but this new concept didn't show that. But also, this new concept showed a Hull A with huge hot dogs on it. So
that's the problem, is that using those
that footage as proof,
is hard.
So,
but they did
really.
did say when they were showing that anything that could fit on it, even because they were the whole point. Because the point was they would say, as up to this, what Chad McKinney was saying was that up to this point it was just one SCU like wide and then whatever long that was it. But they wanted to change that to
one SCU factor of one SCU and multiples. Yeah, multiples of one SCU size.
So the difference is, and I say the Hull A, in theory, if you find those two hot dogs, we can fly like this. Because I say, so if I had to explain how I understand the difference, is before we had kind of like very specialized Lego, where the Lego plate and could only put in the Lego stones. Now we have a magical electromagnet you can turn on, and everything that touches it gets stuck.
You become Magneto. Just like
I think it could work like that, but the difference is if you want to stack stuff on top of it,
it'd be harder.
You would need to have proper containers that also have the cargo grid technology in them, like with the current new containers that are introducing. So you can put a container on top of a container because it extends the grid. But if you put like the giant hot dog on the grid, you can't put anything on it because the giant hot dog itself doesn't act as a cargo grid.
I'll say you don't even have to.
I think we should use giant hot dogs as examples for everything going forward.
You yell at us Americans for using everything but the metric system, but we're already talking about we're not even going to talk about
no.
We don't measure. We don't measure with the
measured in metric system, but I want to use the giant hot dog as a substitute for
metric system.
So, I mean, the interesting thing is, even if we assume the giant hot dog would be would allow you to stack something on top.
Like
if you stack
giant chili
another
sauce.
giant hot dog. No, another giant hot dog.
No. It doesn't work like that. You can put like a giant.
This was supposed to be a lightning round, and we're talking about giant sauerkraut.
I mean, okay. You have a giant hot dog. Now we put on a bucket with a giant bucket with sauerkraut on top. The problem is, assuming the giant hot dog does not get squished, the bucket with sauerkraut will tilt and fall off. It's not. It does not have a stable base to connect.
Yeah.
And this is not. And so we don't even have to think about, does it extend the grid?
Oh, is it solid on the base?
Yes. Do we have a solid baseline where we can put things on top? Because
yeah, that would.
In theory, you take 1 STU containers, stack them up, and then you put on top a 32 STU container. The grid gets extended, but the 32 STU container that's on there, like this,
like a T, yeah.
No, not even like a T. More like
like an L.
half a T.
No, but the thing
fall down.
Is you couldn't do that infinitely. Otherwise, all the hulls would have infinite cargo capacity. But they stop at one point.
That's the next thing. I mean, I guess there we have two things that can play a role. The first is the cargo capacity on the grid.
Mm-hmm.
Either size restricted. I mean, you can't load the hull until infinity, because at some point you have the other extensions.
Well, they're facing away from each other, so you hit the ship instead. Yeah.
Or you have the issue with, I mean, there could be some sort of system error that comes in, and you have to remember you gain mass and you have to move the mass. So
that is already a thing in game, by the way.
Yes,
it's been a thing in the game for a while. They just turned it off because it became a problem.
I mean, yeah, you couldn't start with certain ships when they were loaded with gold.
Well,
which is not a problem. It is just a fact.
Yeah. Well, originally it was all ships were flying as if they were fully loaded with the maximum amount of mass. So some ships literally couldn't get out of atmosphere.
For a reclaimer to exit Hurston. Yeah.
So they changed that so that it was empty by default. And I don't know if they have it fully calculated it in yet. I think they're waiting for other things, but the formula is there. They already have it in the in the game as it is.
I can actually see ships having a certain mass capacity. I mean, they already talked about giving ships certain mass capacity. So in theory, you might be able to load a hull E instead of 100,000 STU with 200,000 STUs. You could, like, due to some sort of, you're such a good Tetris player, you can fit twice the amount of cargo on there. The question is,
I don't think so. No, but okay.
Let's just assume this. The thing is, the mass you put on the ship might overstrain your systems. Not just the holding systems for the cargo grid, but your engines, your thruster, your maneuver thrusters, your quantum drive might not be able to handle it. So there could actually be the case of, even for a hull E, only running with 10,000 STUs of cargo, because the material is so dense you couldn't move otherwise.
What is the current capacity for the hull E?
100,000.
Is it 100,000 STU?
Yeah. It's bonkers.
It's stupid. Well, I mean, like, the current hull C capacity is like what? 20,000?
4,000.
4,000?
No.
Yeah,
hull C is 10 and the hull D is 20.
No. It's 4,000.
No.
Yeah, hull C is like 4,000, but it's like that's still like 7 times that of the maximum that we had before the hull C. It's bonkers in terms of the number of it. But I mean, you do bring up a good point there, Zark, which is something I hadn't thought about, which is the way that gravity zones work in terms of gameplay is, once you've broken that zone, like, it's like a box. Yeah, 4,608. Okay. But when it's like a box, so once you've broken out of that box, you will float away rather than. But if you the second you touch that little box area, gravity starts affecting you, and you drop back down.
I don't think it will be gravity. It'll be some sort of new force, something between magnets and. But yeah,
but this would it wouldn't affect people. It would affect material.
Again,
would be the answers. Which ships would fall into that. As long as you stack it up properly, it would work.
The thing is,
if the landing gear ship uses the same technology, then yeah. But
the thing is, the easiest way to do it, in my opinion, is to lean into the mass system. So right now we already have the thing that ships can gain mass, and depending on the mass of the ship, your thrusters work differently. So easy solution is your thrusters can handle only so much mass, even in 0G, to move it. So you could overload your hull, your merchantman, your carrier, whatever. But at a certain point, your thrusters are just so underpowered that you effectively have to. You can't even turn your ship to use your main thrusters to strafe or something, because just turning the ship takes so much time to accelerate the mass. And then you add on top of it that the quantum drive. I mean, the quantum drive, I guess, is kind of tied to mass. So every quantum drive can only move so much mass.
Yeah, I do
think in terms of if we take the hull specifically for rotational, it wouldn't be that hampered because all the mass is concentrated around the center of gravity, and if you want to turn it, it doesn't affect the extremes of the ship that much. But linear acceleration, that is something that would be affected, and especially ships with internal cargo.
Yeah.
Still, every acceleration would be affected, and again, if we add to
not
this,
if you have.
Even then, because
rotation wouldn't be that much.
Because
it would be affected,
it's not
as much.
Exactly. Yeah, not as much as linear. And then if you add the quantum drive. So let's say okay, your ship's quantum drive has standard operating capacity of 100,000 tons. It can work with 150,000 tons, and if you go over 150,000 tons of overall mass, it just doesn't work. It can spin up, it can start, but you can't get the.
Well, chat says. Well, someone in chat says. James says that the quantum drives should be mass independent.
We are moving in a lightning round. We're moving into the deep weeds. So I'm going to cut this off by saying effectively, chat. What he's saying is that mass would have an effect on ships, which means you can't carry a certain amount of weight. There will be a weight limit that your ships can carry if you want to do things with it, and you have to figure out what that is. Most people who are sane and rational will never find that out because they don't care. But people like Darj and myself and Zark, who are absolutely insane, will be like, what if we put the weight of several neutron stars on the sides of each of these things and see if it can hold, because people will do that, because this is a video game like that people will do dumb shit like that. So CIG will definitely have to figure it out. On Lorville? Yeah, exactly.
Also, I see CIG doing not like completely limiting your maneuverability, but it'll be just a curve. The more mass you have, the slower the acceleration. Fuel. It will approach zero.
Yeah,
but it will never reach zero.
Yeah. It'll end up probably be things like fuel capacity, like you'll eat fuel faster, it'll damage your thrusters faster, so you have to repair them.
Yeah, because you're overheating them. Yeah.
It's stuff like
and again, as soon as you factor in the quantum drive in this equation, people will never try to approach this limit, because not being able to use quantum drive, boy, you're done.
But so the idea being, and I think what Zark was trying to say as well, is that there will be a limit because the mass that you carry, a ship is a lot heavier than a 32 SCU container. So even though it fits in the similar, like an Aurora could probably fit in a 32 SCU container like space, an Aurora is built out of materials that's designed to survive lots of dangerous stuff. So with the 32 SCU container isn't really. It's like the difference between putting a like an armored vehicle, like a tank. A tank could fit on the same railroad tracks as a 32 or as like a standard
40-foot container, yeah.
40-foot container, but
40-foot container collapses if you look at it weird.
Yeah. So like this, that's the difference, and I think that's what Zark was.
And the thing is,
the walls are a couple of millimeter thick, and they're trapezoid weave metal. So
I mean, the thing is, knowing the volume you can carry is nice, but effectively, in most cases, useless because you need to know the mass you can carry.
Mm-hmm.
I think mass is gonna come in soon when they expand the amount of different materials and goods that we'll be able to haul.
Yeah. Especially
when the new resource systems comes in, because mass would tie into how hard do your thrusters get used up, what's your fuel capacity, energy usage, and so on, and that's all resource system.
Yeah. All right, let's take a break and go for a few minutes, and we'll take some questions here.
Yeah, because Paul drank 50 liters of water.
Yes, 50 liters, indeed, 50 liters, and just this tiny little thing. It's called mass, Darj. All right, it's just low mass water. That's all, or high mass water. That's it. It's high mass water. Yeah. All right, y'all. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. All right, be right back, chat.
Same.
Oh, is that? Okay.
I'm back.
All right.
Welcome back.
Seeing chat losing their mind, being like, none of this matters. Build the game first, bro. It's like, welcome to Star Citizen. Welcome to Captain's Table, where we talk about shit like this all the time, and it may or may not happen, or it may take several years. But sit back, relax, enjoy the show.
I mean, do they know that one of the requirements to be on the show is to have a tinfoil hat somewhere?
Well, I don't think so. I don't think they heard that the I don't think they've heard the official tagline of the Captain's Table, which is "We don't know shit. We're just having fun." That's in equal repartee to those of you who are being spoil sports, saying, "Well, the game needs to be fun." You obviously don't know what fun is, because we're having fun. Just mess around. Waiting for Darj to come back, I think. So, this Darj is here secretly. No, he's not. We're a higher class. No, I mean the whole point of that conversation is more around the fact that, like, and I know a lot of people are like, well, I want it to be fun. I want to have all these sorts of things. This sounds like a bunch of stuff I don't give a shit about. And that's the glorious thing. You don't have to give a shit about anything we just said. I don't think CIG cares if you think about that, because majority of the time it's do mission, pick things up, move from point A to point B, and that's it. It's more of the stuff we're talking about is more of edge cases, like you need to carry this amount of lead from this planet to another planet, but that lead, has, this density or this mass that would overload your ship's ability to break orbit or to break out, so you can't actually carry it. So you'll have to start thinking, okay, well, maybe I have to make one trip and deliver some of it, and then another, or hire somebody else to help me out with those sorts of things. It's little aspects of that. It's more of taking the game as it's, building a game that has that ability to create those interesting in situations is what CIG's been trying to do.
And the thing is, having such systems in place also works in reverse. So, for example, you are interested in racing.
Mm-hmm.
So if you reduce the amount of mass your ship has, you remove weapons, you remove unnecessary components, you maybe get some wing job done that replaces your wings with a lighter, more fragile
I'm
material.
sorry, did you say wing job?
Yes, I said wing job. And your ship gets lighter. Now your thrusters can put much more force to play, so you're much more maneuverable. And that's the same system at work.
Yeah, it's more of adding some depth to just point to. I fly ship. I go pew pew. I fly point A to point B. It doesn't mean you can't do that. That kind of mindlessly flying from point A to point B. But you can do that in Star Citizen. It's just there's going to be especially as the game becomes, as you play the game for longer and longer and get crazier and crazier amounts of stuff that you're doing, some of these aspects will start hitting you, so it'll force you to do things like upgrade a ship. So anyways, we'll move on. We'll move on from that to some of these questions. So let's get to the questions.
Hello?
Hello?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, hold on 1 moment, please.
You shouldn't touch the settings.
I know, I didn't. It's stuff changed. I can't hear myself in my own ears anymore.
Oh.
I'm happy that I don't hear myself in my own ears.
I'm not. Oh yeah, here we go. Can I say something before we begin? Because there's something I wanted to mention during the personal hangars discussion.
Yeah, go ahead.
So the notion of personal persistent hangars has been around for so long. I actually made a video on that topic, and so I recorded myself and a couple of my friends playing poker at a green screen, and I combed that in to footage of the business hangar, and I submitted it as a clip to the Wingman's Hangar show.
Wow!
And if that doesn't say to people how long that ago was, the date was October 2013.
Yes, it's been a while.
As Paul said, now that's nothing new for people who've been with the project for a little bit.
None of this stuff is new. This stuff has been around for a long time in terms of developing and planning. This stuff's been around since 2012, like in terms of the way that they wanted to do these things.
I mean, nowadays there are two things I do not want to take a look at in my Star Citizen profile: pledge money and the time I made the account. Both things scare me. One says I'm too poor, the other says I'm too old.
All right, let's get to the question and answers. All right, we're going to the question and answer session with Darj and with Zark. I'm gonna go through some of these other questions first, just because I see some of them are pretty good. One of them is from
Also, if anybody
Hawk.
wants to watch the video that I talked about, it's on YouTube, and I gave you enough information to find it.
Yes, it was in 2013, and it was about the because this will not be in for the audio. I'll cut that portion out for the podcast.
Oh, okay,
So it's 2013 Wingman's Hangar. Persistent hangars. That's how long we've been talking about persistent in the business hangar. That's how long the idea of persistent hangars has been around. It's quite literally built into the game with the idea of these different hangars that you get with every game package. So,
10 years.
All right. So the question from Walter Hack, who asks, we get wait timers of several hours on the freight elevators to fully load a ship by NPCs. Will cargo even be worth it? I can understand 5 minutes, but hours? I don't know where you're getting the hours time for cargo loading. Okay. Is it in for the whole sea right now that you have hours it takes to load? I haven't.
No, it's 5 minutes.
Okay. Whole sea is 5 minutes.
So, Whole sea is 5 minutes. Whole E might be hours, considering it's 100,000 versus just 4,600.
I'll be honest. The Hull sea might also be hours later down the line. Once the whole loading process gets more and more physicalized, so you have NPCs actually moving the crates.
I mean, how long? I remember talking to people whose job it was to load and unload like containers, like planes and containers. And sometimes it can be hours, and sometimes it can be 30 minutes. It depends on what you're loading and moving in and those sorts of things. Like you don't.
Yeah. How many containers and so on.
Yeah.
The thing is, it really depends on your ship.
A huge container ship can take days because those also have thousands of containers.
Yeah. So the thing is, it depends on what's your ship. If you have a Cutlass, that's loaded and unloaded in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
If you have a Hull E, you better make a sightseeing tour in between.
Yeah, but you are making a profit of millions.
Much higher profit margins.
Yeah. So the whole stick with will the cargo be worth it? If you're smart enough, yes. If you're dumb, no. But that's the whole thing about Star Citizen. If you're dumb, you make no profit. You lose money.
Well, on top
of you get nothing. Good day, sir.
If you equip yourself with 50,000 USCs worth of armor and weapons, and Leroy Jenkins into some bunker and get shot, and you don't go back and get your armor back and so on, then you lost 50 grand.
Yeah.
And you
why do I hear the song "Dumb Ways to Die" playing in the background right now?
Dumb ways. Yes, but I also think that it's important to note that no one knows the actual amount of time it's going to take. It's also a game. At the end of the day, like CIG might make the loading and loaders and unloaders on at stations just cranked. You know. We don't know how what they'll do because the CIG will find ways of cheating here and there to make the game flow better. But the wait time for larger, things will get balanced.
At the end of the day, they will balance cargo, so it is worth it. So they might decrease the timers, they might increase the profit.
Yeah. They'll do things, but the reality is that CIG is trying to move towards profit being made slower rather than faster. That is the direction they're moving. So, you know,
go
ahead, Darsh.
Paul and I have been have mentioned this several times on the Captain's Table. UEC will not be the most important currency in Star Citizen. No, reputation.
Yeah.
And trusted crewmen.
Yeah. That's reputation. I mean, you know.
Yeah, it goes both ways. Yeah, reputation is like a two-dimensional currency.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you sit on the space dock and wait for 3 hours for your ship to be loaded, I expect you make quite a bit of money.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there should be, at that point, there should be so much stuff to do in Star Citizen. You can park your Hull E at a spaceport, pay your fees to have your ship loaded and be safe at that time, and go do something else.
Yeah.
And still have that ship, and then when the notification comes up, just like the notification comes up that your refinery order is done, you go to the station and you pick up your ship that's full of cargo.
So
you don't have to stay there.
So Walter clarified. He said that he saw a video where you can hire NPCs. Don't remember the specific video, but you can hire up to 2 NPCs to load cargo into the persistent hangar. You got and saw a long timer. That was likely a video either from a fan, so it's not accurate, or a kind of like a
very old tech demo.
Old tech demo, which is more of a proof of concept rather than ours.
Prototype. But I don't remember that. And considering I run the spreadsheet of everything Jared's made in the past 10 years, it's probably a fan video.
I do remember something along the lines of when the persistent cargo stuff about this time last year was being talked about, where they were showing off some of the new HUDs for the cargo, like kiosks, that stuff, and
right.
but it was like, it was very much like concept art with the hours stuff like that. So the answer is we don't even have NPCs loading and unloading things right now, Walter. So whatever you saw is not a representation of the game.
And those times are going to be completely limited by how CIG wants the gameplay to flow. Yeah. Not by specific numbers of you have this many containers and it takes this much time for one container. If you want to load it faster, I'm pretty sure they'll install like 32 SU container cannons on space stations to just fire those things at your ship. So.
Could also be depending on for what kind of service do you pay. Do you pay for a service that's very careful with your cargo? Do you pay for service that's just rushing the job?
Are you in a place where you have two guys named Jimmy who are doing it, or are you in a place where they have like James. The unions? Yeah, Mr. Jameson, and then, with his army of robots that will help you.
And then there's always the Star Citizen app, so you could sit at work and say, okay, now I'm home in 5 hours. I click load my Harley. It takes 5 hours.
Yeah, and that is an entirely...
And we're all the way back to the start of the conversation.
And that is an entirely... We are in the deep weeds of theory crafting at that point, because we don't even know that.
It's like I'm back on Fortnite Frontier. All we did was theory craft.
Well, that's what we can do right now. David Dell asks, looking at the roadmap progress tracker, I saw that the work on the Quantum is ending on the Quantum. I guess on Quantum... like Quanta, I guess.
Yeah.
Is ending. CitizenCon coming up, and I haven't seen Tony in a long time. Do you think Quantum will be a major focus of the of CitizenCon?
One thing. Does the progress bar for Quantum end suspiciously at the very same time as like 20 others? That means you've reached the roadmap fog of war.
Yes.
Doesn't mean that the deliverable has ended development at that point. It just means that is how far they have updated the roadmap.
Also,
unfortunately, talk to Jake about it. They don't have the developers to spare to create that distinction between the two.
And furthermore, you have to remember that just because one of those tasks ends doesn't mean it's done. It only means that the sprint, so the current development focus on this topic, is supposed to end there.
I got chewed out for saying that. It's not the sprint. It's the whatever the allotted time they have to work on it. Yeah, because I got
the current, so the currently supposed work on this topic is
scheduled
supposed to end
time.
there.
Yeah,
Scheduled
whatever the
to
fuck
end,
that's
and-
called in Scrum, whatever the fuck is called
And-
Scrum.
No, in Agile.
And Agile, yeah.
Scrum is a part of it.
Agile.
Yeah. So at that point, it's supposed to work in a vacuum, and then they still have to implement it and make sure it works well with other systems, and just,
Yeah.
I mean,
it on and on and on
it's
it goes.
already there. Partly it's already there.
Yeah.
Repair and fueling and such. But
Yeah.
as for if it's a topic at CitizenCon, I hope so. I really
Yeah.
hope so.
Yes.
I need some
They
more
have-
podcasts.
2 days to fill. If they
Yes.
don't bring up like 6-hour Tony Z panel,
Yeah.
6 hour Tony Z, and then you have that brain. Great.
I almost certainly will have something from Tony Z, just because I know that team isn't just been sitting there twiddling their fingers the entire time.
I hope we also see something from Ivo Herzog, and if he comes on the stage, I'm gonna kick myself so hard for not being there.
Yep.
What was he working again?
He was the
Oh,
one
yeah.
who created the first-person camera stabilization and foot
the chicken
placement
problem.
on terrain,
Yeah.
and the
Now I know what
phase,
you mean.
the phase deforming for different skull shapes and all these soft attachments that follow everything. He has his fingers in some very deep Star Engine mechanics, and all of it is super interesting.
But I'm gonna finish this because Walter came back. Walter, we already told you, brother, that it's that's placeholder. It's not even hours. It's just them putting in the numbers in. There's lots of stuff like that they do. They just drop numbers and randomly into places because they need numbers. And long numbers shows, if you put an hour in or multiple hours into a timer, you have 3 different numerical like double sequences, whatever they're called. So that shows that the full system is functioning. Whereas if you only did 5 minutes, it would only be 2. And so it's testing. It's showing off what it would look like, and it's about UI placement and how it looks and that kind of stuff. That's all.
Ask yourself what
Jared's
Ask yourself what Jared's ship's name is called.
The only constant, right? That's true.
The only constant is change. Yes.
Don't get too hung up on it. Let's see.
Until we have specific implementation and confirmation, everything else is just.
We'll come back to it when the NPCs are loading the ships. Then we have 3 hours who can talk about them loading it, and then we can fly.
We can catcall them. We can,
No. We'll have a timer. We'll show that shows how long it takes, and we have that time to fill with a podcast.
Yes, like this one. All right.
It's the loading podcast.
Northern Trooper asks, what are your thoughts on the first iteration of the new wave system, with wave 1-2 being 2 weeks, and within 2 weeks we're having 3 to 5 were released? I don't know.
PTU waves?
Yeah, the PTU waves.
I don't think there's any time consideration when it comes to when the waves come out. It's just when they're ready to increase the concurrency of players.
Zark, what do you think?
I'll say what Josh said, when they're ready to do it. I have no idea if it's better or worse. That's something CIG has to check the numbers for.
Yeah.
I mean, in essence, it's the same as it was before, with a slight difference.
Just slight more granularity. You still have Evocati that are the people who are most invested in testing and submitting tester bug reports and everything to the issue council. And if you are salty that wave 1 is subscribers and concierge that get it, just work your ass off and get into Evocati, and then you'll be in before them.
I thought wave 1 was also people that are very active in playing.
They are. I will say it does feel like there's a lot of folks that CIG hasn't updated that list in a long time, and there's a lot of folks who are who do a lot of who are active and do reports who feel like that those doesn't do anything and doesn't help them at all. Now, but what I will also say is, if you're doing reports so you can get Wave 1 PTU, then you're probably not doing reports. And they probably don't want you. Because if you're trying to do it so you can get in a special secret club, that's not what they want. They don't want you to for that reason. They want the other things. And if you're going on Spectrum screaming about it, that's also not probably going to be a way that you're going to get access to it.
If you want Wave 1 access, just play the game every day.
Yeah.
Then you get Wave 1 access.
Eventually, it'll happen. It's weird, though. It's just...
Then again, usually the first waves PTU are slightly buggy and unplayable and...
What do you mean, slightly?
Jesus Christ, I have not seen a bigger software mess than Evocati sometimes.
So,
it's an understatement of the universe, of the century right there. So it's slightly buggy.
There have been some PTU patches that crash on the splash screen.
Paul,
yes.
That's what happens when you play 10 years Star Citizen. Your reality shifts. Reality shifts. So if you just want PTU because you want to play.
So everything's relative. At this point, we're talking about that the live experience is flawless. So slightly buggy.
In perspective.
Yes.
Yeah. In the perspective of treating the live experience as flawless.
Live is flawless.
Oh god. Yeah. So like I understand why people are upset about it. I don't understand why CIG changed it up. I don't know what their whole purpose is. If it might be just money, it might be for other reasons. I don't know. All I'm gonna say is don't buy PTU access. It's not fun. According
to CIG themselves, they made this change so they have over the whole testing period more concurrent players because they have multiple spikes, and they hope that they get more testing done due to having more people.
Yeah.
But yeah,
the 319 going live was the indication that they needed a change in that, just because they had such a huge spike and the PES broke in ways they weren't even considering. Because the postmortem was for 318 and 319.
Yeah, but if you just want PTU access to get the newest ship a couple days or weeks early, don't bother. It's wave one PTU is not fun.
The whole sea was so much more broken when we first got it. It's just it's not worth it. It's just not worth it.
Yeah.
And while I know a lot of people are saying in chat saying it's impossible, you could play every day and you won't get it, and the answer is I got it before I was a streamer. So it's definitely possible to do it. It's just a matter of playing it, and when CIG is adding people or not adding people, it's not a guarantee.
But it's also the issue council, and it's meaningful issue council reports. It's not just like contribute. It's just you need to fill it with your own reports with like proper steps how you encountered the bug. When you're contributing, you need to add maybe some like insight into the bug that nobody else has before, that sort of stuff. If you're just racking up the numbers without any substance, they will notice that, and then they will see that it's just fluff.
Now I also 100% believe, go ahead, sorry.
That's the issue. As the live service is now flawless, filling out issue council gets harder and harder.
I'm just going to get nothing but comments on this about that specific thing.
That is a very good point. How are you supposed to
fix perfection
counter reports if the game is already perfect?
Yeah.
But the point is like I know CIG can be fucking lazy about updating that list, and sometimes they don't. I've written in physically my what is it? My NDA expired for Evocati years ago, and I written in physically to be like, I don't want to be part of Evocati anymore. Give it to somebody else who does it more active. They still give me Evocati access. It's like someone just hasn't bothered to take me off the list, and I know that's probably the case.
I know who you have to talk about, and I don't think they're too lazy to talk about it, to do anything about it. It's just they don't have the manpower to do it.
But as a result, it's more of a situation where CIG is. Like there are people going to complain that like this is just doing it for money, and they might be. And I'm not going to here to defend CIG about decisions that they make for money, which is a lot.
On the other hand, considering that they do have the system, they need to have something in place as a reward.
Yeah,
they do, because otherwise they're not going to have it, and then the number of subscribers is going to go down, and the quality of ISC and SCL and everything else is going to go down. And it's just, do you want for them to fire the ISC capture team, the only shining beacon in this dark world right now?
I mean, I have to agree with you, Dash. The ISC capture team makes better media content than Disney.
Who?
The ISC capture team makes better content than Disney.
I don't know what is.
Yeah, I don't know who that is.
Disney? The Disney company?
Disney.
Oh, Disney.
Disney.
Yeah. Oh, Disney. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, you're just pronouncing it wrong. It's your accent. Don't worry about
it. Yeah. But like I said, we're not here to kind of. I'm not here to defend CIG's actions or anything like that. If CIG makes a mistake, they make mistakes all the time. But the point was is that the point being, I don't know if I didn't really notice any differences in terms of the waves.
And I'll be honest, I can't even get bothered about those kind of mistakes anymore, because every year there's at least 2 or 3 of those.
At least, if not 7. Like
at least about 7.
I'm long past the point of caring about such mistakes, because there's someone somewhere thinking something, and for the most part, it was fine in the end, so the life can go on.
Yeah.
Look at it this way: it's not as bad as Unity right now.
God, I mean. Hopefully not. God, no. All right. The next question comes from a Northern Trooper who asks, in regards of theaters of war, do you think we'll see any tier 0 of it this year, or any combination of vehicle and ground gameplay in Arena Commander?
This year, I'm going to say no.
I am going to say yes.
CitizenCon, Chris Roberts comes down, or no, maybe not Chris.
Sean Tracy?
Todd.
Sean Tracy.
Yeah,
he's the one who started it.
Yeah.
Sean Tracy. Yeah.
John Tracy comes down and says, guys, Theaters of War. There you have it.
There you have it.
It's an IC.
I think we'll see it in experimental mode. I think we'll see it in 2.1's experimental mode. We'll see a Theaters of War attempt.
Like beta testing or something, but I see it coming out on CitizenCon.
Thing is, I don't think Theaters of War, as it was made back then,
it's dead.
That part is dead.
Long live Theaters of War.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't created with the sort of modularity in mind that the new Arena Commander is. So they still have the assets and they have the concepts for it, so they could rebuild it as an experimental mode in Arena Commander, as you said.
They're already doing that. They said in the monthly report that they were doing it.
Oh, okay.
That's why he was asking the question.
Yeah, sure. No, but it's but yeah. So if when it does make its way into our hands, it will be hopefully completely invisible in terms of change to us as the players, but from the ground up it'll probably have to be completely remade with the new Arena Commander code base.
Yeah,
definitely. But yeah, I see it getting announced on CitizenCon, because it's the one big thing they can announce. Of all the things they would announce on the CitizenCon, that's the one thing I say they can announce that actually makes it into the patch.
Yeah.
So it'll be 3.20 point something patch, not 320, because that's coming out before CitizenCon, right?
I can see it 320 CitizenCon patch. They say, guys, CitizenCon is,
I think 320 is coming.
Go home, play Theaters of War.
I think 320 is probably going to be out next week because it's already an open PTU, and it seems like they've been doing it. So
couple of weeks, but definitely not a month.
Yeah. No, I mean, isn't it like the 10th?
No, CitizenCon's in the 21st this year.
Oh, whoa.
Of October, yeah. It's like it's the end of October now.
Yeah,
like
over a month. Yeah.
So
unless they take the time to polish, I think the CitizenCon patch will be a 321.
Yeah,
320.1.
I can see them polish the heck out of 320, especially if they bring something like Theaters of War with a free flight for arena commands.
I feel like considering CitizenCon and they will bring a free flight, they will want a very stable patch. So maybe a couple of weeks of more of polish for 320, and they will during CitizenCon they will have a stable 320 patch
and a PTU,
and then and 320.1 PTU. Yeah.
I still could see
that would make sense.
I could see a 3.21 experimental patch for AC release of a Theaters of War Crossroads of Crime edition as a quick test for the 3.21. They
still have the map. They have still the mechanics they used.
Yeah, it's just a matter of transporting everything into theaters into the new AC, which they definitely need. They said they've been working on it and they've been updating it slowly, but it's. As of July and last month, they've actually gone in and just like cracked open that old thing and taken a look at to see how bad it was, and they're still working on it. So
the CitizenCon patch will definitely have the 2v2 dogfighting mode because Fighter Flight is going to be in Arena Commander at CitizenCon. Yeah, so that change, at least, we can look forward to. I don't believe that's in the current 320 PTU, is it?
No.
It's not. No, okay.
So it'll be an experiment.
It'll still be added, but probably not. I would say probably 320.1 PTU.
Yeah. I mean, they could also delay the release of the 320 patch simply because they want to patch AC over the next 2 or 3 weeks. With a couple of modes.
It sounds like the AC is very modular right
they can
now.
Do it on their own. Yeah. Because they can rotate in the experimental modes as they want to. So it sounds like they can kind of do that separately from the rest of the patch. It's just the major changes.
Yeah, they adjust the parameter server side and then just push a new mode and then it appears in your UI. That would be amazing and very good.
Yeah.
Wow.
That is the reason why this is part one of a 3-part Arena Commander restoration project. So, this
only whole part one
backing up that we're only part 1 of part 3. Yeah, 3 parts. Part 2 is Theaters of War. So,
next week. Or
what's part 3 then?
I don't know. Fucking world domination. It's DJ. DJ and his team are nuts. So it's filled with some, they are stacked with CIG veterans too.
There's one thing missing. Army delegation on RTS.
I don't think we're going to see that. I don't think we're going to see RTS Arena Commander games.
No. What you need is a 4X game in the Star Citizen universe.
I mean, not traditional
Stellaris in Arena Commander.
Okay. Hear me out.
Stellaris Citizen.
Not a traditional RTS, but we are supposed to delegate and command fleets and fighters from
Squad 42,
and probably doing something similar on foot for tanks, ground troops, and so on. So I could see some sort of conquest mode where you actually don't fight yourself, but you delegate all those squadrons and ground troops.
So I hear what you say, and I heard what you said, but what I actually heard was that We're going to do a gotcha game style game with tower defense, with ship girls as an experimental mode. Do it, CIG, please. You'd get all of the wins.
No. Artie Madeira has the right. Artie Madeira has the right idea. Star Citizen.
Civ Citizen, yeah.
The Star Citizen.
Yes.
I think that has a better name.
Let's move on to the next question.
Yeah. It's supposed to be a Q&A. I thought we're already on the news section.
We are.
Why are we taking this long to answer questions then?
I don't know.
It's because it's me.
With PES and the mention of how they are rolling out patches after replication layer separation, do you think we're past the harsh patch rollouts? No. I don't think we'll ever have a 3.18 again. But I don't think we're going to have every patch. 3.18 wasn't nearly as bad as 3.0 was, which wasn't nearly as bad as 2.0 was, which wasn't nearly as bad as 1.0.
So, okay. Let's
within context.
Every patch, so every worst patch gets better.
Yes.
Every worst patch gets better. We still have a couple of very, very, very bad patches before us.
Yeah.
But I will argue that probably the worst patches are behind us.
I agree with that. I can't think of another
the foundation is in a very good place right now. Yeah.
I mean,
4.0 was the last one.
Hell.
Yeah.
4.0 will be hell. Let's face it.
Mm-hmm.
But
4.0
because it's pyro. Pyro is very hot.
It will neither be a 3.0, it will not be a 2.0, and I mean, do you remember 2.0 when we didn't even have the Delta patcher?
I remember 0.8.
Yeah.
Not 2.0.
Yeah. I remember that too. Chat's going wait, like they're saying, server meshing is going to be 2.0. It's going to be super broken. No, I don't. So here's the thing. I do not believe that server meshing is going to be that much of an issue because all that server meshing does, there. It's already, all of the technology that server meshing uses is already in the game. Everything is there. The last step for server meshing is breaking up the and then actually breaking into the different zones and then
dynamic server meshing.
And that's what it is.
The last step.
Even for static server meshing.
There will be bugs when instead of crossing from one server to another, your game just disconnects.
Yes,
that's going to happen, but it's not going to be as disruptive.
You get split in 3 parts.
Yeah, or you go from one zone to another and everything on your ship disappears, but then you fly back to that zone and everything comes back. Or there'll be some weird persistence issues, but
or you get teleported 100,000 kilometers.
Yeah. There'll be some jank, but it's not going to be I can't log into the game, or we have a crash counter for how quickly it takes for the game to crash.
Remember that? That was 1.0. 1.0. It was literally streamers had crash counters.
2.0. It was 2.0.
Was it 2.0? Okay, yeah. I think it was at 1.0 as well.
1.0 was bad as well.
It
crashed. Yeah. You couldn't even finish a game of Arena Commander. It was how bad it was. And then 3.0 was similar, but it was super jank. It was like rolling at 4 FPS for the whole thing. So like 3.18 was bad, and it was bad because for different reasons. But 3.0 was this kind of uniformly everyone was fucked. And 3.18 was only half of the community was fucked, and the other half could play. So it's arguably better, not for the people who got fucked, but arguably
statistically.
Better. Yeah,
statistically, but statistically, I have more arms than the average human. Statistically, kind of means nothing when you're the one affected.
And this is what we meant with everything in relation. Because that's the reason why we can say the current patch is flawless. Fly patch is flawless within the context of how Star Citizen functions. Like I said,
no. What's the phrasing? Star Citizen is flawless for various definitions of flawless.
See, a lot of people are going to take this as the wrong way, that we're making fun of Star Citizen, or that we're
we are
Star
making
Citizen.
fun of Star Citizen.
But we are making fun of Star Citizen. All right. Yeah, I don't think it'll be as bad though. I think it will definitely be jank, and there'll be some fun, but I think it'll be mostly funny jank and some frustrations. But you'll still be able to like log in and log out.
So, I will say the following: if you want a less frustrating 4.0, do not move cargo.
That's true. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Or just don't play 4.0 until the first couple of weeks, and then 4.0.1 comes out if you really want that sort of experience. Because we all know, like, but don't worry, when 4.0 goes on live, it'll be flawless, just like 319.1.2 we're on right now is flawless.
We are already in the flawless spectrum now. It's always getting more and more flawless.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I was just in a Hull C, and it was expanded, and I was flying in quantum, and then I went through the spindle and I fell through. So I think the Hull C is also flawless.
Oh,
God damn it! All right, moving on. Will we see mod support from CIG to match what Bethesda does for their games? No. No. I do think there will be a healthy modding community for Star Citizen, whether CIG wants it or not.
I can see a lot of add-ons or plugins coming online and getting supported from CIG to help with certain things within the game. But actual modding will not be possible.
The thing is, CIG isn't in the business of grabbing up all the most popular mods and releasing Star Citizen Game of the Year edition.
That's true. But at the same time, Bethesda's also built on an engine that's older than the people who play the games that Bethesda makes. So it's been around long enough that everyone knows how to use it, because you can mod it by just taking two rocks and smashing them together until a fire starts. That's how you mod Bethesda games. I mean, so you have it's a lot easier in Bethesda to mod than it is in a Star Citizen experience. So
and you have to think about it. The Bethesda programmers working on the engine, they get told to look up YouTube where the modders put their work, how to fix certain issues.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I have a high suspicion that the upcoming patch for Starfield that has the DLSS support is basically just going to be the DLSS mod. Yeah. It's like Rockstar that released Red Dead Redemption, like the new version on Steam, and because they had to remove the crack for it, so they have to remove the DRM for it because it was released on Steam, they just uploaded the Razor 1911 cracked executable with it.
Yeah. Now, is CryEngine good? CryEngine is fine, and CryEngine is very, very easy to mess with. But
the story behind CryEngine is awesome.
The problem is that Star Citizens doesn't use base CryEngine anymore. It really uses its own version. And when you're getting into the details of like server meshing and PES and having to replicate a lot of those things with
64 space.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that was going to require CIG to build like tools for modders to use. And that's going to require time and energy that CIG just doesn't have, nor do I think it will have for a very long time. I still think that we'll have mods, and I think we'll have like offline or private servers, but those will be done by players who are like downloading CIG's information and reverse engineering everything and kind of cracking it. Likely using something like Squadron 42 in the same way that Red M and 5M does with GTA and Red Dead Redemption, where they make multiplayer versions of the game by using the single player versions and then reverse engineering it into their own multiplayer versions. They don't use the like Red on.
Well, they got bought out by Rockstar anyway, so
yeah. So I think that'll probably what happen. Some people will come up with that that similar system, and CIG will just buy them once it gets to that point. So,
and I mean, just for maybe comparison, CryEngine with what CIG started. Imagine this as like Arnold Schwarzenegger, buff dude, yeah, in his prime.
Mhm.
StarEngine now is like Godzilla or King Kong, yeah. It's a whole different beast on a whole different level, and
Still full of steroids.
full of steroids. Even more, it's pumped up, it's juiced up. And I'll be honest, I'll argue it's probably right now one of the most powerful engines we have.
Powerful
With
engines. In terms of graphics fidelity, I wouldn't say so. I think Unreal Engine 5 has it surpassed, but it also runs better. However, they are pushing in that direction. They're pushing for ray traced global illumination, which is what Lumen is. I don't think we'll get anything along the lines of Nanite for like dynamic levels of detail. But then again, I think there's also a merit in artist-driven levels of detail, just because that drives down the
and then you have
restriction requirements for running the game.
And then you have to remember that the engine is still lets spin a whole system in itself, whole solar system spinning all around itself.
Oh yeah,
and all the crazy stuff. So
all right, let's keep going. I think the point is we were all agreeing that there's no way you're going to see Bethesda level support for mods from Star Citizen. That doesn't mean there won't be mods.
There was some talks for it in the past, but that was before Star Citizen became the monster that it is today. So unfortunately,
And I do think that CIG, because Chris Roberts did talk about how Freelancer remained relevant through to today because of mods, because people went in and modded that, and he wanted to support that in the future. And I still think he wants to, but it's a matter of making it work with what they have now, which would be difficult to do as they will. But I don't think CIG will have an option, because players will do it. Players will figure a way of doing it. Because, like, in reality, you can make stuff in Star Citizen if you have the CryEngine dev kit. You can do stuff like that. It's not perfect. It won't run great, but like you can get access to the code of Star Citizen not too difficultly. So.
This isn't a secret, so I'll talk about it. Some of the people who work at JRDF are also the people who have created StarFab, and StarFab is a tool that lets you unpack the Star Citizen back file and extract any asset out of it with all the rigging, the animation rigs and lighting and sounds and texture work. So you can just you could take a ship, put it into Blender, and just have it work. And that is how we at JRDF work on our ships. We use StarFab to extract the ships from the game, and then apply a workflow to turn them into models. We don't get like flawless models from CIG, because CIG doesn't have flawless models.
What? I thought you said CIG was flawless.
No, Star Citizen is flawless.
Oh yeah, so it's the patch is flawless.
Yeah, all right, but I'm just saying, already we have such powerful tools that exist. When Star Citizen is live, and there is more of a need to create similar tools for projects like your own private servers or a completely new single player experience in the Star Citizen universe. There are a lot of talented people out there that are going to make it work, whether CIG likes it or not.
Yeah. I mean, I still believe firmly that when Squadron 42 comes out, within probably a month of Squadron 42 coming out, talented groups of people will have turned that and reverse engineered it so they could run a private server instance of Stanton, or a private instance of
not only that, what about the titty mods?
Oh yeah, booty, and give me some booty, CIG, Jesus.
Oh god. So the gamers completely subverted my expectations that one of the first mods for Starfield wasn't a titty mod; it was the DLSS mod.
Yes.
So for Squadron 42, I believe it will be the male character Bootylicious mod.
Thank you. Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's the other thing. I do think that Squadron 42 will have a very healthy modding community. It will be modded to hell and back. People will find any way they can mod that and change that because it's just going to be. That's single player games are like that. So especially games like building like I think Wing Commander had a pretty thriving mod community as well. So. All right. So we've got only a couple questions left. We've got.
What time is it? Okay.
We've got 6 questions. Northern Trooper asks, with the leaks over the past week and the rumors of Squadron 42 coming to console, do you think we will see it released on Xbox due to the lower tier Series S skip or skip Xbox altogether?
Pass. I'm not talking anything about leaks or rumors or anything else.
Yeah. That one is the really important thing to note about anything that deals with pipeline is that Aria is good people, Hater is good people. A lot of those people there are good people, but unless they're pulling it directly from the files, anything they say should be taken with not being 100% proven.
With a salty mic amount of salt.
The reason why is because even if they do have people who are talking about information from inside CIG that they actually have, you have to understand that CIG is filled with 1,000 employees. And I work in a school with about 100 people. I don't know what every single teacher is teaching or what all the administrators are talking about unless they go out and tell me. And I can guarantee you any announcement made by an administrator is going to be taken differently by every single teacher in the school. Anyone who works in any sort of organization can tell you the experience that you have will vary depending on who you are and where you are. And anybody who's leaking something is obviously not, who's risking their job and their future job prospects, because if CIG finds out they leak, that they may not be able to work in the games industry ever again, because that will be something that carries with them where they go, unless they're creating their own jobs. It's obviously somebody who's probably not already not very vested in the project or is upset at the project in some way. And so you have to keep those into the context. So anything that's talked about with those situations, you have to keep those in big context. And we still have no proof. As much as they're very certain about these things, there's no physical proof of that. So
I'll say 2 things for this. First one, up until now, every Chris Roberts game came to console.
Mm-hmm.
Second, the reason why Star Citizen is developed on PC is so they don't have to make any restrictions in the vision of Chris Roberts due to hardware limitations.
Mm-hmm.
Do with those 2 pieces of information what you want, but I believe they answer the question.
Yep.
Without diving into any rumors.
And all I'll say about Pipeline is that considering how many things they've gotten wrong, they have a lower success rate than Random Chaz, which is a statistical wonder. So
they just take a lot of stuff at face value.
Also, Osveteran, I leaked nothing.
I'll be honest.
I take my NDAs very seriously.
He wasn't talking about you. I know you.
It's better in predicting leaks, for example, in regards to ships and such, than Pipeline.
Yeah, I mean, if they pull you in directly from the files, it's hard to miss that. It's more of when you're dealing with the human factor. There's a lot of other aspects.
But like I said, we use a tool called StarFab that lets you pull stuff directly from the files. So it's not like it's leaked. It's what CIG released.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, a lot of things CIG.
So the only thing they get correct is what CIG really released.
And I mean, there are a lot of things CIG. I don't want to say is, but things they tell you, things that are in a monthly report, things that are in the way certain people talk, say certain sentences, and so on. There's a lot of things CIG tells you that's not face value. That's not black and white. That's what's coming. But you can infer from it, and usually it's quite accurate.
My screen is frozen? I don't think so.
Nobody's screen is frozen.
Anyways.
Your screen's frozen. Your mom's screen is frozen.
Darj, it's like 3:00 in the morning, and Darj is a couple of beers in. So,
yeah, this is where your mom joke comes out.
So like, yeah, there's a lot of things to talk about when it comes to like Star Citizen on consoles. I've been a firm believer that for the longest time that I think CIG is stupid if they don't release Squadron 42 on consoles, but that's a completely different
question is if the consoles
potentially
can
next
handle it.
generation, just because
Yeah, maybe.
It's not gonna be. I doubt it's gonna be released the same time as Squadron 42 on PC. It just we would have seen teams of people being announced or hiring for those people if the CIG was doing it internally, because it's very different. The skill set for building something on, say, Xbox X or PS5 is very different from building on PC. There would have been other movements people would have been picked up on. So
yeah, but the issue is also adapting the control scheme to the limited
button
function the way.
Grabby hands for consoles.
So. Yeah. All right. The next question is: with new jump town locations to be considered, where would you like to see the next? Where would you like to see it planted next, and why? For me, it's Microtech forest biome. I'd love to see the Microtech shale biome, like
the obsidian desert
biome.
Like
yeah, the obsidian desert.
At the poles. Yeah.
Or
at the very center of the pole where all the geometry gets wonky because they still haven't figured out how to do a sphere properly.
Yeah. Or what is it?
What was it? Delamar? The moon where Levski is. There was a huge wall.
Yes.
Right in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
It was also on every moon because how their spheres work. There were a couple of seams and points of convergence where the textures just went completely haywire.
Yeah. I also would love Hurston Savannah biome. That'd be kind of cool.
On top of the CDB.
In the center of Crusader. Or just on a platform. It's just like it's a nice platform, and then it's just this junky out
right next to Noza.
Yeah.
In some industrial district, that would be awesome.
I would like it to be at a location that is very hard to get to and very hard for it to be. No, very short. So information doesn't really get out very quickly. I don't want there to be a quantum marker on it.
No. Yeah.
That is the issue. All of these underground, locations that are very hard to get to should not have quantum markers. You need to be able to put in effort to find, so only like a small subsection of people will be able to find them. It should be an effort to get there. Regardless of where
originally.
it is.
Like originally it was?
Yeah.
All right. Though I would love to see like a jump town like experience in Area 18, just in one of the buildings.
Yeah.
So you
or
have
on
to,
top of one.
Sure, like Ninetales should, or whoever is behind this should just take over one of the skyscrapers at an area.
Yeah.
Not even Area 18, could be like on the other side of the planet. So, yeah.
All right, we got 4 questions. When do you think they'll add cargo missions into the game? If they, i.e., pay you X to haul X amount of cargo to X location? We know that's being worked on right now.
Monthly report mentioned it, yeah.
Monthly report mentioned it. It's been mentioned in the progress tracker.
I argue
not just that. I think Elliot's mentioned it on ISE. Yeah,
Elliot doesn't shut the fuck up about it. Not just on ISE, but every if he's here, he'd probably talk about it right now. He's talked about it
on Spectrum. On Spectrum with his fucking Spooderman avatar.
I'll say 3.
I love him. I love him so much.
I say 322 for cargo missions.
I could see 321
Right.
or 322, one of the two. Yeah.
Or 320.1.
Yeah, it's close enough that it's
Not
it's
320,
like
not 320, because we would have seen them in PTU right now, but definitely after 320. Yeah.
well, all it is spawning in those variety of those crates that they already have in 320. So I think the issue is more of pick up and drop off locations, and I think part of what they were talking about in the last ISC is probably close to what
Also a hauling organization that you get to build your reputation with, and then you need for that organization you need to create different supply and demand sections and locations depending on what you're hauling and stuff like that. It's slightly more involved than just creating a mission for it that Elliot does, so it has to do with also the lore and back-end stuff a bit. But yeah, which is why it's probably not in 320, even though they've been talking a lot about it. Still takes a bit more.
All right, we got 3 questions left. We'll go quickly. Related to that question, will custom containers like the triangular Raylan containers be affected by stuff, like maybe specialized locations? I think you're talking about
I
thought
the concept was that like the triangular container is just like extra shielding, so the door opens and a regular container goes in.
Like some sort of pyramid.
Yeah.
And it's designed that way to better fit on the ship.
Yeah. I don't know.
I thought those things just open up and you can put a normal container inside.
No, they are bespoke containers for your island.
Oh, okay.
So I argue that they are essentially the same as every other container, with the exception that you have to play a different kind of Tetris.
Well, then I'm surprised that they went with triangles instead of hexagons, because everybody knows that hexagons are bestagons.
Next question.
No. Seriously, if you want to cover an area with the highest amount of entities, you go with hexagons.
Yep.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's why most maps in like a lot of outside of D&D, I think a lot of tabletop maps use hexagons markers.
Yeah, 4X is hexagons. Bees create hexagons for their beehives. So yeah.
All right, anyway. Last 2 questions. A guy named Austin asks, "What are your thoughts on Vulcan being stated to be close to final implementation?" I am not surprised. That team is nuts. They are cracked
and hardworking.
Yeah. And they work their little butts off. I am looking forward to it. The other thing that I'm looking forward to is, that team's not going to stop once they get Vulcan in. They will drag everything they can into that game to make it run on your grandma's 1997 laptop. I
think the next step for the Vulcan team, for the graphics team, for that part of the graphics team is ray tracing with especially the ray tracing global illumination. Yeah.
Now the question is, we brought up DLSS earlier. Do you think Star Citizen will support DLSS?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay.
They've said that they are open to implementing every upscaling technology, which includes the Intel one as well, and not just FSR and DLSS.
Okay. Nice. All right,
which is good. Look, like, and I wouldn't expect anything else. It's not fucking Bethesda that's in bed with AMD.
Yeah, well, I mean, Vulcan is technically AMD, but isn't it independently run?
Open source.
Yeah, it's open source now. Yeah.
They lost all sort of domain over it when they make it open source.
Yeah. All right. Pace Cape asks, has there been talk lately if Spectrum will be in the PU via Mobiglass or such? Yes and no.
But in the far future.
Yeah. There's some integration. Yep. They want to integrate chat from Spectrum into the chat for Star Citizen. But, VoIP runs through VoIP currently in game runs through Spectrum. So it runs through the Spectrum service on the website. The
thing is, the whole part about Spectrum having the sub forum for your organization and so on, that's supposed to feature into the organization, module, programming, whatever they think of, and is supposed to help you with organizing your group play. So Spectrum will be heavily integrated, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's pretty much one-to-one.
There's also, if you read the Squadron 42 monthly report this time around, they mentioned something about Galactopedia being in the Mobiglass.
Mm-hmm. It started that process of migrating it in there. So,
yep.
All right, that's the last question.
That
was the last question.
Wow.
Yeah, we're only 45 minutes late.
Oh, it's fine.
That's fine. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for Darj and Zark for coming in last minute to fill in for this. This was a nice little kind of jaunt through a lot of the parts of Star Citizen, though, even though we're talking about hangars and cargo. We did talk a lot about hangars and cargo, though. Thank you for joining us. If you enjoyed this, make sure that you are checking out jrdf.sc and go to darjanator.com. You can head to my Discord where you can hang out with Zark as well. And of course, you can join us live at twitch.tv/TheAstroPub, Saturdays at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, where you can come join us live and ask your questions and that stuff. And if you enjoyed this, hit the subscribe button on YouTube, hit that follow button on Twitch if you enjoy this. And like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black.
By the way, Dash, where are you located in Europe?